So I want to talk a bit about Metroid Prime because since 2017, since Metroid Prime 4 was announced, we've had all these discussions about Metroid Prime Trilogy HD becoming a reality. The first three Metroid Prime games coming to Switch. And for some reason, within the past year, or at least the past 7 months at least, that has completely changed. The discussion now is that we're apparently only getting a remaster of Metroid Prime 1, and 2 or 3 may come like 2 or 3 years later, who knows. This is obviously completely out of the blue. I've mentioned before that I don't believe this. I firmly believe we're getting the trilogy because it makes no sense that we're getting all three games. But the discussion really has shifted to just Metroid Prime 1 specifically coming to Switch, specifically in November. And so that's the purpose of this video, as you can tell from the title. I am concerned because if you're going to get people excited for Metroid Prime 4, you've got to do it right. And surely I would imagine Nintendo would want to have people play all three previous games. And yeah, people will use the excuse of, oh, Metroid Prime 3's motion controls are a problem on Switch. No, because Skyward Sword and Mario Galaxy have proved that statement is false. They could easily bring, maybe not easily, but they could bring Metroid Prime 3 to Switch. No problem. And so, with all this talk of a remaster or a remake, nobody even knows what it is, I just find myself very confused. And to be honest with you, I don't know how I would feel. If we get a September Direct and we see Metroid Prime is coming to Switch and it's just the first one, I'm going to feel a bit cheated, to be honest, because I want to play all three games on Switch. That bundle already exists. There's very minimal work you'd have to do other than some texture work, and there you go. Three games on Switch. But if it's just Prime 1, that would really be disappointing, especially if there's not that much of a difference. If it's the same game, just with slightly better textures, then on its own, that's going to feel like bullshit. I'm sorry, but if that game on its own, without the sequels, and then releasing Prime 4 the following year, that's scummy in my eyes. Now, that does bring us to discussion of remaster versus remake, because nobody seems to know what this is. It's not a full-blown remake, which means we're not going to see, I presume we're not going to see new rooms in the game. We're not going to see cut content restored. So then it basically is just a remaster at that point. I would be happy with it, and I would take it if it is a remake. If it's the same game, but they restore cut content, they add rooms to Magmore, maybe they add a boss. If they add Kraid back into the game, then I'll be pretty happy with it. But if it's just the same game with only some minor differences, I'm not going to be happy. And that's the thing. People are saying there is noticeable differences. This isn't just texture work. They're doing significant changes. But there's no mention of new content or cut content coming back. So I'm leaning more toward remaster. That's why I refrain from calling it a remake, because if I call it a remake, I'm just going to get my hopes up and I'm going to delude myself into thinking it's going to be this new experience, when in reality, it's going to be the same game without the sequels. And then apparently they are working on Metroid Prime 2 and 3, and those are coming later on exactly as they are, possibly as a bundle, but maybe not. So if I'm to believe this correctly, we're getting Metroid Prime 1 on its own, but slightly different, and then 2 and 3 will be exactly the same. It just doesn't make any sense, especially since all along we were talking about the trilogy. These remaster rumors came out of nowhere at the start of the year. And yeah, it ties into rumors we heard from 2018 that Retro had started work on Metroid in September of that year. But presumably that's Prime 4. I really can't get it into my head to believe that it's just Prime 1. It's a remake or remaster of that. It probably is. With each passing week and with the discussions constantly going on, I'm starting to believe that is something Nintendo probably would do. Now, because I believed Metroid Prime Trilogy would come out in August, and still could, but the fact that we haven't heard anything has me thinking, okay, Metroid Prime Trilogy is not coming in August. A simple port would not be a November game. So if it's coming in November, maybe it is just some buffed up remaster. I don't know. I still think Metroid is coming this year, so it looks like, by my own logic and reasoning, that it would lean more towards the remaster being true. And, this wouldn't necessarily damage the Metroid brand or anything. I suppose it's not as doom and gloom as I make the title out to be, but I'm worried because people won't get to experience the sequels. Yeah, maybe the sequels come next year and Prime 4 comes the year after. And yeah, I guess it would be cool. That way they could consistently keep a Metroid game every year, like what they're doing with Zelda currently. But just give us all three. Don't make this complicated. When all is said and done, we should have all three of these games on Switch anyway, so why not do it all at once? Okay, if Metroid Prime 4 is coming in 2024, they won't have a Metroid game next year. So what do? It's not like they have enough time to port one of the DS games or remake one of the other games. They don't really have that many studios for Metroid. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the business or the marketing at Nintendo, so I can't really say for sure there. But and I can kind of understand the reasoning of splitting up the Prime games. But come on, that would just be so disappointed. To just partially redo one game and then not bother with the other two. It's like, what the hell are you doing, Nintendo? Like, stop fucking around with these classics, I don't think they'll ruin Prime 1, partially because I don't think they're going to do much to it anyway. I think it will just be a texture upres and obviously control. You'll have the control options for both the motion controls and regular button controls, but they're not going to do much else beyond that. I would love if they did. If they did a remake, it would justify the price. If it has, I use Kraid specifically because I really want to see that fight added back into that game. Maybe they're saving him from Prime 4. I don't know, but they got to do something. They got to add new rooms or something to make it quote unquote brand new. But if it's just the same game on its own, of course I'll buy it. I'm a Metroid mega fan. Of course I'll buy it, but that's not worth €60. I'm sorry. I cannot justify that, even though I'll buy it anyway. I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but I'm really at odds here. I'm conflicted on how to feel about all of this. I don't want Nintendo messing around with these games. I just want these games preserved as they are for a new generation to play them. I want people to play these games the same way I got to experience them almost a decade ago. Have them just be more accessible to the modern generation. You don't need to do all this crazy work with it. And if you're messing with the visuals, there's always a chance it could look worse. I did videos on Bayonetta 3 recently and how that looks dramatically worse than Bayonetta 2. And Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U game and that looks spectacular. Why is 3 looking worse? It's on Switch. It should be more powerful. That's my fear with Metroid Prime as well. Specifically Prime 4, that it won't be up to standard of Prime 1, which was a GameCube game. Because let's be honest, graphically those games got worse. Prime 3 doesn't look that great visually. The environments and the details compared to Prime 1 are just... There's a significant difference, and I'm worried it will only go downhill again with Prime 4, and possibly with this remaster. At the end of the day, I don't know. I am happy and I am delighted we're getting more Metroid games, and I'm delighted that a new generation will get to experience this classic. These games that are not easy to get your hands on. And yeah, it's cool Nintendo celebrating the 20th anniversary of the game, because the only anniversary they've celebrated is the 35th anniversary, and all they did was talk about it and give us Metroid Dread, as if that's nothing, but you know what I mean. So it is cool that they're potentially doing this, but I don't know. I'm we'll have to see how it goes. There's always a chance all of this is fake and we don't get any Metroid game this year. The updates for Dread could be it. That could be the only Metroid content for this year. And here's the thing. If we don't see Metroid Prime Trilogy HD or Metroid Prime Remaster in November, if it's not in the September Direct, like announced for November, I'm officially going to give up hope of those games coming to Switch, because I do believe Prime 4 is holiday next year. Of course, that could get pushed into 2024. Maybe Trilogy comes out in 2023, but we've been talking about it so long now that if Metroid misses this year, I'm not really going to believe they're doing the annual build-up to Prime 4 like I am currently. But we'll see how it goes. We could be having a very different conversation about this come September. But in the meantime, it's all just rumors and hearsay and speculation. He said, she said. But as I said, we'll see. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What do you think of this? Would you be happy for a Metroid Prime remaster? Are you okay with these games getting split up? Do you believe it? Do you think we'll get the full trilogy? Do you think it will be a remake? I want to hear everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novus Corvius out.